My friends, every date in our calendar carries ordinary moments, but some days are marked for extraordinary transformation. I believe with all my heart that 4th of October 2025 will not be just another day. It will be a divine turning point. A day when breakthrough collides with destiny, when long-awaited promises begin to manifest, and when hidden seeds of faith burst forth into a visible harvest. Today, I want to declare to you 9 things that will happen on that day, not because of human strength, but because when God ordains a time, no force on earth can stop what He has set in motion. There are moments in life when it feels as though every opportunity is slipping away, when doors remain closed no matter how hard you knock, and when prayers echo back with silence. It is in these seasons that discouragement takes root, making you believe that nothing will change. Yet the truth is that delays and denials are not the end of the story. They are often the preparation for a greater opening, a moment when what was once shut will suddenly and miraculously swing wide. The idea that closed doors will open is not about wishful thinking. It is about trusting that timing is everything and that when the right moment arrives, no barrier can remain in your way. When a door is shut, it is easy to think it is permanent. We feel rejected from opportunities, relationships, or dreams, and we start believing that perhaps they were never meant for us. But what we often fail to see is that closed doors serve a purpose. They protect us from entering too soon, from stepping into something we are not yet ready for, or from walking into a situation that could harm us. Many of us carry the pain of being told no, but what if that no was simply preparing the stage for a much greater yes? When doors swing open, it is rarely by accident. It happens because the season has shifted, the preparation is complete, and you are finally standing in alignment with your purpose. Consider a person who has been applying for jobs, facing rejection after rejection. Each email that begins with, "We regret to inform you," feels like another door slamming shut. After months or even years of waiting, they begin to lose hope, thinking maybe they are not qualified or worthy enough. Then suddenly, at an unexpected time, a call comes through with an offer, better than any of the positions they had applied for before. The same individual who once felt invisible now realizes that every rejection was steering them towards something greater, something aligned perfectly with their skills, passion, and destiny. That door, which seemed to remain stubbornly shut, was simply waiting for the right moment to open wide. One powerful example comes from a young woman who dreamed of becoming a teacher. She applied to a prestigious university program, but was rejected year after year. Each time she thought her dream was over, she took temporary jobs, cared for her family, and tried to move forward, though her heart ached. 5 years later, she was unexpectedly offered a scholarship to a different university, one she had never considered. Not only did she complete her degree, but she graduated with honors and later went on to start a school in her community that impacted countless children. Looking back, she realized that the rejection she once despised was actually redirection. If the first door had opened when she wanted, she may never have ended up where she was meant to be. When doors open after being shut, they do not just open slightly, they swing wide with force and clarity. These are the moments when you step into opportunities you never thought possible, when connections are made that were once unimaginable, and when blessings arrive that feel beyond your deserving. The beauty of it is that these openings are not something you have to force. They come naturally, often when you least expect it, because destiny has a way of finding you. On 4th of October 2025, such openings will happen. What you thought was lost will resurface. What you believed was denied will be granted, and what you once saw as impossible will become reality. Closed doors are not the end of your story. They are simply the waiting rooms of preparation. And when the right day arrives, those doors will not just open, they will swing wide, ushering you into the next chapter of your life. Fear is one of the most powerful chains that can bind a person's life. It holds back dreams, silences voices, and keeps people from stepping into opportunities that could change their future. Fear disguises itself in many forms: fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of what others may think, or even fear of success. Whatever its shape, it acts like a prison, locking away the strength, talent, and courage that lie within. But there comes a moment when those chains must break, when the weight of fear gives way to the freedom of faith and boldness. When that moment arrives, Hesitation turns into confidence, and anxiety turns into peace. Fear thrives in uncertainty. It whispers that you are not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy of the dreams you carry. It convinces you to shrink back rather than move forward, to remain comfortable rather than take a risk. Yet the truth is that nothing great is ever achieved by surrendering to fear. Every story of victory, every testimony of transformation carries with it a moment when someone chose courage over fear. The breaking of those chains does not mean fear disappears entirely, but it means it no longer controls your decisions or dictates your destiny. Imagine a person who has long desired to start a business. For years, they've had ideas, plans, and even the support of loved ones, but fear of failure has kept them from moving forward. Each time they considered taking the leap, fear painted a picture of everything that could go wrong: losing money, being judged, disappointing others. As a result, they stayed in a job that drained their spirit, convincing themselves it was safer to remain where they were. Then one day, after much reflection, prayer, and encouragement, they finally chose to confront that fear head on. They registered their business, launched their product, and to their surprise, it thrived. Looking back, they realized that the chains of fear had not been real walls at all. They were illusions, shadows that dissolved the moment they stepped into the light of courage. This example shows that fear is often nothing more than a barrier built in the mind. The moment you decide to move despite the trembling, the moment you take a step forward, even while your heart races, that is when freedom begins. Boldness is not the absence of fear, but the determination to rise above it. When chains break, you feel a shift. Suddenly possibilities open where limitations once stood. You discover strength you did not know you had and realize that the power to move forward was within you all along. On the day those chains fall, you will walk differently, speak differently, and live differently. Fear will no longer dictate your choices, and anxiety will no longer paralyze your spirit. Instead, you will embrace opportunities with courage, knowing that the future is not something to dread, but something to step into with confidence. Every person carries within them seeds of greatness that often remain unseen, buried beneath layers of doubt, fear, and delay. Many times, circumstances convince us that we are ordinary, that our abilities are small, and that our voices do not matter. We compare ourselves to others, believing that their gifts are brighter or stronger, while underestimating the treasure that lies quietly within us. Hidden potential is like a diamond buried beneath the earth. At first glance, the soil appears plain, but beneath it lies a gem waiting to be uncovered, polished, and revealed. The challenge is that most people never dig deep enough to discover what has always been inside of them. When potential is hidden, it doesn't mean it is absent. It is simply waiting for the right season to emerge. Just as seeds lie dormant in the ground until the right mix of sunlight, rain, and time awakens them, so too your talents and gifts may seem invisible until the right moment calls them forth. What may look like delay or stagnation is often preparation. Life has a way of using struggles, setbacks, and even disappointments to shape us, so that when our hidden potential finally emerges, it is strong, refined, and ready to shine. Too often, people define themselves by their current situation rather than their true capacity. They see only the walls around them, not realizing the power that resides within. But the truth is, you are far more capable than you believe. There are songs unwritten, books unpublished, businesses unbuilt, and dreams unpursued that exist inside of people who assume they are not good enough. The emergence of hidden potential begins when you dare to see yourself differently, not as small or incapable, but as chosen, equipped, and powerful. Take, for example, the story of a young man who worked quietly in the back room of a small shop. For years, he swept floors, stocked shelves, and watched others succeed. He believed he was destined for mediocrity, that his role in life was to simply survive, not thrive. One day, during an unexpected crisis, the shop owner was absent and a problem arose that no one else could solve. This young man stepped forward, used ideas he had kept to himself, and resolved the issue with remarkable creativity. His solution saved the business from a major loss. For the first time, his potential was recognized, not just by others, but by himself. That day marked the beginning of his journey into leadership, and years later, he became the owner of a successful company. His potential had always been there, but it took the right moment to draw it out. This is what happens when hidden potential emerges. It is not about becoming someone new, but about finally uncovering the greatness that was inside you all along. On the day your potential awakens, you will stop seeing yourself through the lens of limitation and begin walking in the truth of your capacity. The world is waiting, and when your hidden strength rises, it will not only transform your life, but also inspire and impact everyone around you. Relationships are some of the most valuable treasures we hold in life, yet they are also the most fragile. Misunderstandings, pride, disappointments, or even silence can cause fractures that leave us feeling distant from people we once loved deeply. When a bond is broken, it often creates an ache that time alone cannot heal. What once was a source of joy can turn into a source of pain, and the walls built between two hearts can feel too high to climb. But even in the midst of brokenness, there is hope. Relationships can be restored, and when that restoration happens, it brings healing not only to the relationship itself, but also to the souls of those involved. Restoration does not mean pretending nothing happened. It is not about sweeping pain under the rug or ignoring wounds that run deep. True restoration comes when forgiveness takes root, when humility replaces pride, and when love becomes stronger than the need to be right. There is power in a simple act of reaching out, in choosing to speak healing words instead of harsh ones, and in deciding that the relationship is more valuable than the offense. What once seemed impossible becomes possible when hearts soften and walls come tumbling down. Often, people hold on to bitterness because they believe letting go means losing. But in reality, refusing to forgive only keeps us imprisoned by the very hurt we wish to escape. Restoration begins the moment we decide to release the weight of resentment. When we choose reconciliation, both sides experience freedom. The past no longer dictates the present, and the future opens with fresh possibilities. Imagine two brothers who once shared everything growing up. They laughed together, dreamed together, and stood side by side through challenges. But as adults, a bitter argument over an inheritance drove them apart. Years passed with silence between them. Each felt justified, each carried pride, and neither was willing to be the first to apologize. Their families grew up without knowing one another, and what once was a bond of love became a canyon of separation. Then, one day, the older brother suffered a serious illness. Lying in a hospital bed, he realized the wealth he fought for meant nothing compared to the absence of his brother's presence. Gathering courage, he picked up the phone and called. His brother answered, hesitant but curious. Through trembling words, an apology was spoken, forgiveness was exchanged, and tears replaced years of silence. The healing of that relationship not only reunited the two men, but also reconnected their families, who began to rebuild what had been lost. What seemed irreparable became whole again because love and humility triumphed. This is the power of restored relationships. On the day when reconciliation takes place, the burden of division lifts, and hearts begin to heal. Broken friendships can be mended, family bonds can be renewed, and marriages can find strength again. Restoration is not only possible, it is life-giving. When love builds new bridges where walls once stood, the result is peace, joy, and a sense of wholeness that what words can barely describe. There are seasons in life when the weight of responsibilities, challenges, and disappointments leaves you feeling completely drained. No matter how much effort you put in, your strength seems to fade faster than it is replenished. You wake up tired, move through the day weary, and go to bed carrying the same burdens you began with. Weariness doesn't just affect the body, it touches the mind and spirit, leaving you questioning whether you can keep going. But there comes a moment when a fresh wave of strength enters your spirit, when what once felt heavy suddenly becomes lighter, and when the fire inside you, though flickering, burns brightly once again. This kind of strength is different from mere physical energy. It is deeper, reaching into the very core of who you are. It is the type of renewal that lifts your perspective, reignites your hope, and steadies your steps. When this fresh strength enters, it does not mean that all problems vanish, but it means you gain the inner resilience to face them with courage. It is like inhaling a breath of fresh air after being trapped in a room without oxygen. Suddenly, you feel alive again, ready to endure and even thrive in the midst of pressure. Often, this renewal comes when you least expect it. You may be on the verge of quitting, convinced that the road is too hard. Then, Seemingly out of nowhere, you sense a surge of determination that tells you to take one more step, to try one more time, to believe in possibility again. This is not something you create by sheer willpower. It is something that flows into you, a divine infusion of strength that revives your spirit. It is a reminder that you are not walking alone, and that even in your lowest moments, there is help greater than your own effort. Consider the example of a woman training for a marathon. For months she prepared, running countless miles in all-weather conditions. But on the day of the race, halfway through the course, her body began to shut down. Exhaustion gripped her legs, and her mind screamed for her to quit. She slowed down, ready to walk off the course in defeat. Just then, she spotted her family standing by the road, cheering her name. Their encouragement sparked something inside her that no energy drink or rest could provide. Tears filled her eyes as her strength returned, not to her muscles first, but to her spirit. With renewed determination, she pressed on and finished the race. Looking back, she realized that the strength she found in that moment wasn't just physical. It was an inner power awakened by hope, love, and the refusal to give up. That is exactly what happens when a fresh wave of strength enters your spirit. You may not know how you will make it, but suddenly you find yourself moving forward again, carrying a strength that feels greater than your own. It lifts your head, straightens your back, and fills your heart with the courage to endure. This strength doesn't just help you survive, it helps you overcome. It is a gift that turns weariness into perseverance and despair into hope, reminding you that you are capable of far more than you imagined. There are times when life feels like walking through fog. You move forward step by step, but you cannot see where the road is leading. Decisions pile up in front of you, each one heavy with uncertainty, and no matter how much you think or plan, the picture remains blurry. It is in these seasons that confusion clouds the heart, making you question your purpose, your direction, and even your worth, yet clarity always comes. Vision does not remain hidden forever. There comes a moment when the fog begins to lift, when what once felt tangled suddenly falls into place, and when your next steps become undeniable. That moment is not just about seeing a path, it is about understanding why you are on it and what it will lead to. When vision becomes clear, there is a sense of alignment within you. The battles that once drained you begin to make sense as preparation. The detours you once resented reveal themselves as lessons that shaped you. Clarity allows you to connect the dots of your past and see how they point toward your future. Instead of wandering aimlessly, you begin walking with intention, knowing that each step matters. The power of vision is that it doesn't just give direction, it gives meaning. You wake up each day with renewed determination, not because the journey is easy, but because you finally know why you are on it. This kind of clarity often arrives in stillness when you pause long enough to listen beyond the noise. At other times, it comes in moments of challenge, when life strips away distractions and forces you to focus on what truly matters. When vision is revealed, confusion loses its power. Fear begins to dissolve because you can see the bigger picture, and confidence grows as you realize that the road ahead is not random, but purposeful. Take the story of a young artist who struggled for years to find her place. She loved painting, but every attempt to turn her passion into a career left her discouraged. She worked odd jobs, questioned her talent, and often wondered if she should give up entirely. One afternoon, while volunteering at a community center, she was asked to teach children how to paint. At first, she hesitated, thinking she wasn't qualified. But as she guided the children, she saw their faces light up with joy and creativity. In that moment, her vision became clear. Her art wasn't only for galleries or personal recognition, it was meant to inspire and teach others. What once felt like failure suddenly revealed itself as preparation for her true calling. With that clarity, she built a career not just as an artist, but as a mentor, touching countless lives. This is what happens when vision becomes clear. You stop wandering and start walking with confidence. You stop doubting and start believing that every experience, good or bad, was shaping you for this moment. The fog lifts and the path ahead is illuminated, not because all the answers are known, but because the purpose behind your journey has been revealed. With clarity comes freedom, with vision comes direction, and with both comes the strength to step boldly into the future. Life often feels routine, a steady rhythm of ordinary moments strung together by tasks, responsibilities, and familiar challenges. Days can pass in sameness, making us believe that nothing extraordinary is waiting for us. Yet it is within this very rhythm of the ordinary that miracles often arrive. A miracle is not always a grand spectacle that shakes the earth. Sometimes it is a quiet, unexpected breakthrough that enters your life at just the right moment. It is the provision that comes when resources have run out, the healing that begins when hope seemed lost, or the opportunity that opens when every door was closed. Miracles break into the ordinary not to impress us, but to remind us that life is not limited to what we can see or control. They reveal that there is a power greater than human strength, weaving wonder into the fabric of daily existence. The beauty of miracles is that they rarely appear when we are in abundance. They arrive in times of need, when our hands are empty and our hearts are tired. In those moments, we realize that we cannot manufacture solutions on our own, and it is then that the unexpected unfolds. Miracles are not bound by logic, timing, or circumstance. They interrupt the natural order and remind us that the impossible is still possible. They teach us that hope is never wasted, and that even in the most ordinary situations, something extraordinary can be birthed. Imagine a single mother working 2 jobs to provide for her children. Every paycheck vanishes into bills, food, and school expenses, leaving nothing extra. As the holidays approach, she worries about how she will buy even the simplest gift for her children. One night, while tucking them into bed, she whispers a silent prayer, asking only for the strength to make it through. The very next day, a neighbor she barely knew knocks on her door. With a warm smile, he hands her an envelope collected from community members who had noticed her dedication and struggle. Inside is enough money not only to cover her expenses, but also to bring joy to her children during the season. She breaks down in tears, realizing that what seemed like a hopeless situation had turned into a miracle. The bills were paid, the needs were met, and her heart was reminded that she was not alone. This story captures what it means for the miraculous to break into the ordinary. It is not about waiting for lightning to strike or for the earth to shake. It is about recognizing that miracles often appear in everyday life, disguised as kindness, unexpected provision, healing moments, or sudden opportunities. They do not always arrive with fanfare, but they always arrive with impact. When miracles break into the ordinary, they transform more than circumstances, they transform hearts. They renew faith, strengthen hope, and awaken gratitude. They remind us that even in our most routine days, the extraordinary is closer than we think. And when you live with the expectation that miracles can happen, you begin to notice them everywhere, turning ordinary life into a canvas painted with wonder. There are seasons when effort seems endless and progress feels painfully slow. You give your best, you work tirelessly, yet results don't always match the energy you pour out. It is in those moments that favor becomes the difference maker. Favor is more than being liked or appreciated. It is an unseen force that positions you for opportunities you could never reach on your own. It is when doors open without you knocking, when people notice you without you striving for attention, and when blessings flow that your own strength could never have secured. Favor is not about manipulation or striving harder. It is about alignment, timing, and grace that lifts you into places your effort alone could not take you. When new favor enters your life, you begin to see connections forming that you never could have orchestrated yourself. Someone speaks your name in a room where you are not present, and suddenly opportunities arrive at your doorstep. A chance meeting leads to a partnership that changes your trajectory. An idea you quietly carried within you gets noticed and celebrated at the right moment. Favor has a way of accelerating progress, turning years of waiting into sudden breakthroughs. What makes favor so powerful is that it cannot be earned through sheer willpower. It is not about being the most talented, the wealthiest, or the most experienced. It is about being seen, chosen, and lifted by something greater than human achievement. Favor works like a spotlight in a crowded room. It singles you out, not because you are the only one deserving, but because it is your appointed time. And when it is your time, no opposition, no delay, and no obstacle can stop it. Consider the story of a young man who loved music. For years, he wrote songs in his small bedroom, recording them with borrowed equipment. He posted his music online, but hardly anyone noticed. He continued anyway, not chasing fame, but simply doing what he loved. One day, a well-known producer happened to stumble across one of his tracks by accident. Struck by the talent, the producer reached out, and within weeks, the young man's song was featured in a major campaign that reached millions of people. Almost overnight, his life shifted. He hadn't chased the producer, nor had he pushed his way into the industry. The opportunity found him. That was favor in action, lifting him into a place his hard work alone could not have achieved. This is what it means to discover new favor. It doesn't replace diligence or discipline. It multiplies the results of your effort. It takes your ordinary and breathes extraordinary into it. It positions you for visibility, honor, and opportunity beyond your natural reach. When favor shows up, you stop striving and start walking in a flow that feels almost effortless. People notice you, doors open, and blessings chase you down. Favor is the difference between working endlessly for recognition and being recognized at the right time without even asking. And when it comes, it changes everything. Every journey has moments of waiting, seasons when it feels as though you are sowing without ever reaping, believing without yet seeing, and holding on to promises that seem distant. These times test patience and stretch faith, leaving you wondering if the fulfillment will ever arrive. But there comes a day when the waiting ends and the season shifts. Walking into your season of promise means stepping into the reality of what you have hoped for, prayed for, and trusted in. It is the moment when words once spoken over your life begin to manifest, when doors align, and when what seemed far off suddenly stands right in front of you. A season of promise does not come by accident. It is the result of perseverance, growth, and alignment with the right timing. Every tear shed, every trial endured, and every obstacle overcome has been shaping you for the fulfillment ahead. The season of promise is not simply about receiving blessings. It is about becoming the kind of person who can carry them well. What once felt like endless preparation reveals its purpose. You were being strengthened for the very season you are now stepping into. When you walk into this season, there is a sense of undeniable shift. What once resisted you begins to flow. What once seemed impossible suddenly becomes natural. Opportunities line up not through your striving, but through divine orchestration. And most importantly, peace fills your heart, confirming that this is where you were always meant to be. You are no longer chasing after what was promised. You are living in it. Think of the story of a man who dreamed for years of owning his own home. For over a decade, he rented small apartments, saved diligently, and faced rejection after rejection from banks and lenders. Each made him wonder if the promise of stability and ownership would ever come true. Yet he held on, continuing to believe even when circumstances told him otherwise. One afternoon, unexpectedly, a friend connected him with a new lender who not only approved him, but offered terms far better than he had ever hoped for. Within months, he moved his family into a house that fit every detail he had long imagined, a yard for his children, a kitchen his wife had dreamed of, and a place that finally felt like theirs. Standing in the doorway on move-in day, he realized he had stepped into a season of promise. The waiting, the struggle, and the delays were all worth it because the fulfillment came at the right time, in the right way. This is the beauty of walking into your season of promise. It is not just about receiving something tangible. It is about seeing faith rewarded, hope restored, and purpose fulfilled. It is about recognizing that the wait was not in vain, that every step prepared you for this moment. And when it happens, you realize that the season of promise is not the end of your journey, but the beginning of a new chapter filled with even greater possibilities. So mark this day not with fear, but with expectation. Do not approach it with doubt, but with faith. Because 4 October 2025 is not the end. It's the beginning of a new chapter. It is the day when your story turns, when your prayers align with destiny, and when heaven's calendar collides with your earthly journey. Stand tall, walk boldly, and prepare your heart, because what's coming is greater than what has been. Your future is brighter than your past, and October 4th, 2025 will be the day that proves it.